G'day folks, how you going? It's Brad here from the Headshot Guys. I'm in my studio here in Robina and it is Monday morning. It's just gone after 11 o'clock. I suppose I can rattle on about the coronavirus. Probably not a lot that most people don't know. That's it. Today the government's announcing some interesting packages for small business people. May not affect me. I don't have any staff, so they're emphasising the fact that I think they're going to be giving you $1,500 a fortnight if you are willing to keep on your staff, or for each staff member. I don't have staff, so that may not appease me too much, so we'll just have to wait and see. The banks, well, they're talking about the banks coming to the party. The banks haven't really come to the party. I'm a bit disappointed with the banks. All they've done is deferred payments. Now I think that sucks a bit, defers for 6 months. So some people are going to be worse off in 6 months than what they are now. So if you defer a payment, you're still getting interest. Your loan is actually going to be in a worse state in 6 months than what it is now. So I don't understand why the government just doesn't come in and go, righto, freeze. It just means that the landlords, whether they're commercial or residential, can then pass on that freeze to hopefully their tenants, and it will make the bounce back that much more easy, I would have thought. But that's the banks. The banks suck at the best of times anyway. So what else can I say? I'm not going to waffle on about that. There's probably smarter people again than me talking about that sort of stuff. So that's how I see it. But anyway. So today I thought I would do something a little bit different. A new skill I've learned, and I talked last week about wanting to learn a new skill. New skill I've learned is how to record my screen, which it's interesting when you can do it, because I can do then little videos about how I edit my images and what programs I use and how I do it and how I switch between the two, etc., etc. So I've done that, so I'm going to edit this image now. So first of all, I bring up the image that I'm going to edit. Now this image which I'm about to show you, now I've got to remember how to do it. So I've just got to record my screen. So it's now being recorded. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you this image. Now this image right now has been edited already. That's the finished edit. It's a color image, it's a headshot. What I'm also going to show you is how I did the black and white version. So this is how I do it. So let's reset this image back to nothing. So that's an image straight out of the camera as it's been shot. Now obviously Aline, she's Brazilian, she's gorgeous, she is a model. She's not my normal headshot. Most of my headshots are corporate professionals. Aline is a model. I shoot a lot of models. I shoot a lot of actresses as well. So I'm using Aline to show you how I would edit. So the first thing I would do is look at any scungy marks around on the backdrop. There don't seem to be any in this particular image, which is cool. So then I would look at eliminating a bit of contrast. I would take out the shadows, lighten the shadows, and I would take a bit of black out of that. That might not seem, that doesn't look that flash right now, but what I'm also going to do is take this into Photoshop, do some work, and bring it back into here and add that stuff back in. The reason I do that, it's just easier in the long run. So let me take that. That's about all I would do. I'm now in Lightroom. Lightroom obviously is, I tether into Lightroom, I shoot into Lightroom, I organize all my stuff into Lightroom. I can show you later how I do that. But obviously that's how I would start the editing of any image. Yeah. So then I would take it into Photoshop with the Lightroom edits. Photoshop's going to open up. There it is. All right, so now I'm in Photoshop. So what I've set up is some actions using layers. So what I'm going to be doing here is showing you what I do. I'm not going to show you how I set up my actions. I'll cancel that. I want to play my action. Okay, so the very first thing I do is convert it to black and white. So down here you'll see I use color fill to convert to black and white. I use that because I've looked at there's 50 million different ways in most things to do certain stuff. I look at the easiest and the best version. So for me, I create a color fill layer, but when I'm editing in color, obviously I turn that off. So that'll convert that back to color. Now you see the background, and then the first layer here is what I call my edit layer. So this is where I would grab my my tool over here, which is the now what's it called? I can't bring up the name now. It's called the, I don't even know, healing tool. Okay, so I also use a tablet and a pen. Now, if you don't use that, that's okay. You can still follow along using using a mouse. So the first thing I do is would zoom in on her skin. Her skin is pretty cool. Her, you know, obviously she's very fit, very healthy. This young lady, Alini, so there's not a lot of stuff on her skin that I'd have to tidy up, but just little tiny marks here and there. I would just go through, tidy all those up with the healing tool. So basically all that does, it takes a sample of whatever I'm trying to fix, and it finds somewhere else to fix it from and just moves it over. Little tiny bit like this. Little bits and pieces in there, that's all I would do. So might get that hair there. For people that get really fussy, I'm going to do this a little bit more quickly than I would normally do it. Move down anything on her skin that might look like a bit of a blemish or a pimple or something along those lines. I'll just tidy them up. But you know, she's pretty fit, she's pretty healthy, she looks after herself a lot. She does a lot of fitness sort of stuff, videos, she eats really well. Her partner, I think, is, or has been in previous years, Mr. Australia. So he's into bodybuilding and fitness and all that sort of stuff. So that's pretty much what I would do. Any little eyebrows that might be out of whack here, I might just touch up the ends of them. That's about it. So scroll back out to 25%. That gives me a pretty good look at how that went. So you might not notice too much, but you know, there's enough there. Now here's an opportunity. I might go in and her eye, she's got a little bit of an eye difference. Now I'm big on eye differences. So her left eye is a tiny little bit bigger than her right eye. So what I'm going to do is just go in there and even them up a little bit. Go into the liquify tool, and I'm just going to grab that tool. I'm just going to bring those eyes up so they're a little bit more even. Boom, like that. So now her eyes look the same shape. Okay, so I do all that in this first layer here. So done that now. Now I'm going to do some dodging and burning. So the first thing I do is grab my dodge tool, come into here, and I would look at her eyes and just get a little bit more highlight in her eyes just by painting on there. Now I've got my flow here down at 1%, my opacity at 100%. So what I can do is this button here, it turns on and off the pressure. So I can press lightly and do a little bit. The harder I press, the heavier it goes. So I'm just going to lighten up those. You can turn those off and on just to see how much you've done, just to give those eyes a little bit of a pop. The next thing I'll do is remove any little dark bits around the bottom of the eye here, around the eyelid, any dark stuff. Again, she's pretty healthy, she's pretty fit, she doesn't have a lot of dark stuff around the eyes like some people. Sometimes they get a bit dark in there. That's just shadows, it's not really anything more spectacular than that. And then I'll pop the eyebrow light there just a little bit, just give that a bit of a pop. Okay, so what I'm doing with my dodging and burning ultimately is I'm just accentuating the light that's already on the face. So I'm not changing the light, I'm not adding light, I'm not changing the darks. All I'm going to do is a light strip down her nose. All I'm doing is accentuating that a little bit more. Then again on the forehead, I'm just accentuating the light that's already there. So if we turn it off and on, yeah, you can just see that little bit of a pop there. It's not over the top. In colour, I drag it right back in colour. You can afford to be a little bit more heavy-handed in black and white, but in colour you need to be very subtle. So subtle is the way to go. Less is more. So I'm going to do under the lips there, just get that little bit there. There's a little bit of light there. I'm just going to enhance that. So any little bits of light, I'm just going to enhance them. Might just go over the eyes a little bit. That's it. So that might be all I do there. Might come down to her boobs here, just enhance a little bit of light along there. So you can just see just a little bit, not over the top. You can see I'm turning that off and on just to see what I've done. So I haven't gone crazy, just enhance the light that's already there. Then I would go to my burn layer, which is here. Now these are, if you want to learn about actions, you know, there's all sorts of videos in YouTube about actions. You can just set up your own actions. This is really quick. I do this every time. So then I'm just going to enhance the cheeks a little bit. I'm going to look at the shadows underneath the lip here. I'm going to do a bit of enhancing, again a bit of darkening under the nose there. Down this side of the nose where that shadow is, I'm just going to enhance it. So I'll pull that back out a bit. Yeah, might do her eyebrows a little bit dark on there, a little bit dark on there, and that's about it. So then I might look at the neck. Any shadows down through here, might just enhance them a little bit, just around where her boobs might cut there a little bit, just enhance a few shadows there, a little bit of neck stuff. That's it. So that's pretty much my dodging and burning. And that's it. That's might be all I do in Photoshop. So then I will save that back into Lightroom. Takes a little while. As you can see there, I haven't done much more than enhance the light that's already there. That comes back into Lightroom. All right, so now I might just touch the exposure a little bit. I'm going to take out a bit of yellow. I think she's looking a little bit too yellow, so I might drag that back there to about 4. Then I can add back in the contrast. So I'll keep an eye on the darks, keep a look at her hair. I might take a couple of highlights out, and then I'll play around with the shadows. You can see the difference the shadows make. Whites, I'll add some whites in. Now I can go to there and push that all the way to there, and that where it turns red there, that's telling me the white. Now I think that's a bit over the top, so I'm going to drag that back. Normally about 20 is where I get to on the whites. I don't need any more than that. Same with the blacks. I can push the blacks until I start to get those marks there. That'll tell me when my blacks turn black, and that's really what they are. That's telling me that my blacks are turning black and my whites are turning white. So sometimes I find the whites turning white is too much. You can also look up here in the histogram as well, and that'll tell you your whites and your blacks and where all that stuff is. Okay, so I might do a little bit of texture. Again, a bit of clarity. You can always just look at how that's going to look. Might punch that out to about 8. Same with the texture, do a little bit there. Dehaze, I won't touch that too much, it just darkens stuff up. I'll take that back to 0. Might pump a little bit more exposure into that, to about there. That's looking pretty good. Maybe that exposure could come down a tad. Again, you've just got to feel your own way into it, your own sort of look and your own style. I might just brighten up her lips just a little tiny bit. So I'll go into there, make sure that's 20, give her about 25, make that a little bit bigger. Just brighten her lips a tad. Might do her teeth a little bit as well. There we go. A little bit subtle. Can turn that off and on. Just see a little bit. Yep, cool. That's about it. Okay, so now there's a couple of different ways I can make her really pop from the background. Now, as you can see, the background's not white. It wasn't deliberately white, it's grey. So what I'm going to do here is grab like a gradient tool, I suppose it is, gradient circle it's probably called, and I'll just pull a shape out around her. Now, you've got to be careful here that you match the light. So this is going to give you a circle of light. And how I've got it set up, and you'll be able to see it here, I've got it really strong feathered, and as I pull that across, that's going to darken down that background. Yeah. So what it's doing is darkening down everything outside that circle. Now, if you have no feather on it, it'll make it look like that. I'll turn off that red, and that's just going to look weird. Yeah. So as you feather it more, and feathering just means the transition between the lights and the darks are less obvious. So I feather that right out to about 80, yeah. And if we look at what it does there, we can turn that off and on. Yeah, you can see the darkness and the light. Now, the important thing here is to make sure that you keep the light coming from the same direction, that darkness coming from the same direction as your light is already coming from. Yeah. Now, what I had here was two lights, one coming from the left of her face, but the main light was coming from the right side of her face. So we keep that the same over there. Now we can make that as wide as we like. We can make it a bit wider. We can make it a bit thinner. Yeah. Again, you just do it to your taste. So you can punch that back in there, and you end up starting to get a look that you like. So I might pull that exposure just back out a little bit, but you just want it enough so she pops. So that's it. That's all I would do. That's about a 10-minute edit. Yeah. Now what I would do if I want to convert this image to black and white. Now sometimes I'll make a choice early on, and I'll say this image is just going to be black and white. Now with this particular image, she really liked this image herself, so she wanted it in color. I wanted it in black and white, so I ended up doing both. So what I'd then do is take the color image, and I'll simply take it back into Photoshop, keep in the Lightroom edits, because I'm thinking that's looking pretty good as a color image. Then I would just go back up to my actions here, and I would invoke my actions. And I don't know what I just did with my action then, but anyway. Again, I'd look at that. It's now been converted to black and white. That looks pretty cool. I don't think there's anything else that I'd really do. Go back in, save that, back into Lightroom. Take that back into there. That's looking pretty cool. I might just bring a bit of that highlight off, a little bit over the top on the forehead. Just see where that contrast lends me. A little bit of contrast there. Shadows, same thing, just a little touch of shadows. Again, with black and white, you can tend to sort of be a little bit more aggressive with your sliders. Not overly, but a little bit. You can just see where that black's going to leave me. So about there, I think, is not bad. Touch more exposure back in there, and that's it. That's what you get. So then you would end up with your nice black and white image and your nice color image that you can put next to each other, and there they are. So that's all you get from me. Hope you enjoyed that. Any questions, let me know. That's it. That was how I edit. So hope you enjoyed that. Any questions, hit me up underneath. See you later.